Joining us now is Maazị Tochukwu Ezeoke, political economist, project management consultant, and media practitioner. One of the analysts who, in fact, toured the vital infrastructure earlier last year. Maazị Njenje, it's always such a pleasure to have you. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Tad. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you for having me.
Right. So we all look at this with a tinge of heartbreak. We don't know where to place the blame. You know, we love to blame, and we don't know what to do with it. What's your appreciation of what you've seen on screen?
You know, the videos that when I initially saw that initial video, I think around Monday or Tuesday, not to blame anyone initially, my heart sank. You know why? Because I was really glad that I inspected I went around the state, and that was one of the areas I visited. And knowing that place when it was being demolished and the structure that has been put up there and the potentials that it had, I saw that initially I thought, is this an AI stuff that, I reached out to see, can someone verify this? Because I found it absurd. Having verified that, and I'm thinking, what could have done wrong? If I put on my project management cap, and I'll be thinking, not necessarily, well, the contractor is the head of whatever has gone. But if I break it down, I'm beginning to ask, where is the quality control and the quality assurance team who was within the team inspecting this? Because it's not just for the cosmetic of it. When you have the project drawing, there are elements that these things must be tested. I'll give you an example. While I was at the 300-bed-sitter hospital being built in Enugu, you can see when they were doing the oxygen piping, you can see that they had pressure testing. So it's not about just joining the coppers, but they had to pressure test it, leave it for a while, make sure there is no single leakage. That is, quality test, and to assure that the quality is okay. But in this project, I am not aware, and I didn't see, without blaming anyone, but if it was done in a way that these things were quality tested, I do not think that it would have happened. Because, look, we're talking about the roof, we're talking about the glasses shattered, and I was like, thank God that happened maybe at night, that lives were not lost. I bet you, if that has happened during the day, there is no way life may have not been lost because of the level of destruction that is seen there. Now, having said that, I think in such project there are building costs for, I don't know, if I don't have the details, that if you build such a project, okay, the contractor for the next 5 years, you may have to do the maintenance. You may have to take anything, if anything breaks. So I hope that was done. If that is the case, then it's not going to be extra cost to the state. It has to be to the contractor. But the optics alone is, not good. And for those, probably the oppositions in the state, I mean, probably creating enough content for them to water down what the governor of Enugu State is doing and is trying to do within the Enugu State metropolis.
Okay, what didn't this contractor, put in place or think of, regarding this unavoidable scenario?
Like I said, it could be, I don't know, could be oversight. It could also be the Nigerian rara-ness. That's what I normally call them, how you do things nonchalantly. Because, okay, I'll put it this way. The first question that I asked when I saw that was, I know there are banks around there. I said, was any other old buildings affected? Why is it that it is this new constructed one that is affected, not the old buildings, banks, the other side of the market, or across towards across. There are no other buildings. So it tells me one thing. It's very difficult to sit down here and I struggle not to blame anyone. Do you understand? Because there must be somewhere an oversight. It is not normal. If it's a hurricane, many roofs. We have old roofs in Enugu, brown, and they stayed intact. But a new one, it just got damaged this way. It calls for concern. Let me tell you guys, for public places, a different material is being used because of the density of use. It's not if let's say you're doing your own roof and you're using is it 0.35 or 0.4 gauge, and there's no way you can still use the same for public, because that's why you see, if you go there, you see that the floor tile, that's the flooring was done with marble, not tiles, because marble does not wear. But tiles, you can see that after so much frictions, the top layer begins to peel off.
Yeah.
So those are things people put into consideration when constructing such.
So now these affected public infrastructure, because we also saw that a smart school was affected by this rainstorm as well, and we understand that there are also some other integrity issues affecting some of these public infrastructure. They are there already. The concrete has been laid. The coal tar has been placed. The bricks have been put up. Now they've been painted and people are using them. What would you do at this point? Yes, we understand that a lot of them are still standing on strong, and it's just, these are the isolated events that are being captured. But what can be done now? Now the contractor may have moved on, and so what would you do in this kind of situation? Is it an unsolvable problem? Can it be fixed?
No, Natalie, the contractor or contractors cannot move on. The job is not yet done. It's not just you build a house, you move on. No, I believe, I do not have the details, I repeat, but I believe strongly that there are checks and balances built into this contract to say that if you build this, you need to give us these, some sort of guarantee for X number of years. You talk about smart school and what one could do. If I were to be the governor, I will be concerned, deeply concerned too, because we have seen previous governors in other states that the things they built, people jokingly say, oh, they built China, quality, right? So I'll be concerned, and I will raise a team to go and re-evaluate most of these things and retest them. Because one, these are public places, because if, God forbid, that life at any point is lost, it's going to be on him. Therefore, if there are remedial works that must and should be done to them, they should do them ahead of time before we have any further incident. I do not think it means that everything done is shabby or it's of low quality. I do not believe that. However, if we feel just like when things are manufactured, it could be that a batch or two, it's after all, even the best car manufacturers in this world, they do what they call recall. It's because as it's a result of a pattern, when something is tested and they find out that there is a fault, they recall. There is no shame in that. In this case, if a contractor needs to be recalled back to site, even when things are not yet damaged, but because the quality test has been carried out and, one has seen, okay, there could be issues here, it's better to fix them, change them before we get to a point where what we now see that it becomes a public, it becomes in the public there that something like this happened. I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that the storm that occurred in Enugu on Sunday is capable for an industrial place. Again, industrial. This is not a domestic thing. Industrial place to be done and damaged in that manner.
So, Maazị, you've already nailed the contractor because you're talking about integrity tests right here and the quality tests. So, meaning that literally these things we are vetted.
No, it will be, again, it will be unfair to say that they were averted without facts. I do not know, and I do not have that fact.
We're seeing the result. We're seeing the backlash.
Things could happen. Let me give you an example. A contractor comes in, within such project, you have subcontractors. You could agree with someone that certain maybe thickness of whatever could be used, and they could use a certain profile could be used, and they could, sometimes try to save cost and use something without the main contractor knowing. The subcontractor may have faulted. Now, but where I think, if things were done the way it is written down to be done, that at every point in time, these things are tested. Do you know that, the pouch that got damaged, for instance, these things are, you can test them for weight. There are ways, after installation, they put certain weight on them to make sure that, this thing, you've seen where cars, they test them for airbag and say, okay, if you hit, what can happen at this speed? We have to come to a point that will take lives serious, right? These things has happened, no life lost, but again, not blaming anyone here, because until you know the fact, you can pinpoint and say, this is the person to blame. But I think there are, to your question, I think it could be that certain tests were not done. Then the contractor and the government must work together to find out who is that person that made this error. If it's an error, that person should, in my view, taken off away from further engagement. If that individual is a subcontractor,
so we understand that at the time a lot of these constructions were being done, the governor did set strict timelines for delivery, probably understanding that when you allow things go unscheduled, people can take years. 8 years could go by and nothing will be delivered. So there were timelines set. Do you think that these contractors would fall back on the timeline and say they didn't have enough time to finish the work, so they rushed? Do you think that contributed?
No, not at all. Listen, a professional, a governor calls you and say, it's just like someone say, okay, I want to have a baby. I want to have the baby in 6 months. It's not possible, right? So, there are things that are there that guides your professional, things you do professionally. If these things, like you have to do a concrete, for instance, and they tell you this concrete has to last XYZ number of days to cure. You can't lay a decking today and you want to start putting blocks on it tomorrow. No, it must have certain number of days. And these things are factored in when you do your work breakdown structure to say, this is what we're going to do. And after day 10, we do this. After day 15, we do this. And while we are doing this, the mixture has to be tested. The load has to be tested. So these are things. I do not in any way, shape, or form believe that the timeline affected it, because that timeline, bear in mind that they have a project plan. And this project plan has timelines broken down within them, and they have costs broken down within them. And these things are costed. So if you come back, unless where you have, for instance, in cost, where you can, as a result of exchange rate fluctuation, that you could say, okay, on this we'll have a cost variation. But on quality, as long as the number of days put in there professionally for things to happen are followed, I do not believe that the timeline is an argument against, any mistake.
Right. So, Maazị, what are your expectations now? While we wrap up, we have just 30 seconds on our clock. What are your expectations following this development?
I expect the governor to be visibly angry, and if I were in his shoes, I would constitute a team, independent team, to look into this and flag out, flag up any other gray areas that may still, where something like this may still happen and has to be fixed before the public gets a wind of it.
All right, Maazị Njenje, thank you so much for your time this morning. It's always so great to have you. And no pun intended, but thank you for hitting the nail on the head. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.